Hello everyone, this is Nurse Blue. Blue stands for Build, Love, Unite, and Empower People about my favorite subject, hopefully soon to be yours. So health, it is Wellness Wednesday, and I am so excited that now in this cycle of life, Wednesdays are not just about hump day or I can't wait to Friday day. No, it is about soul health, taking care of your soul on Wednesdays. And if in fact you receive this video after Wednesday or before Wednesday, then great. Then today is your soul health day. And then you can mark Wednesday as the next time you're going to take care of yourself. So if you are just tuning into me for the very first time, well, I'm so happy I've come into your life and you've come into mine. I am now your favorite nurse, wellness coach, and musicologist. And if you want more information about how you can defeat chronic stress with soul health and how you can elevate the vibrational frequency of your soul so you can attract everything you want into your life with the vibrational frequency of joy, then you want to give me a thumbs up. You want to hit the bell or subscribe and all of that. That's how you do your homework. And now we're going to get into why you decided to click on this link. Well, here's what I want to just help you out with today. I was thinking about this because this is something that everyone on planet Earth, unless you're an alien and they say they're here, but they said they were in Miami a few weeks ago. But anyway, this is what everyone on planet Earth is going to experience at some point, and we're going to experience it over and over and over again, and it is grief. It is grief, right? And here's my question today. Why does grief hurt so bad? Why does grief hurt so bad? And I wanted to talk about this because grief is one of those things that's going to hinder us from experiencing joy, right? And if you've been rocking with me for any time, you know that the vibrational frequency that I consider freedom frequency is joy, right? So when we talk about how powerful joy is, this is not just what my opinion of it is. It's not just because I decided to start teaching about joy. No, this is scripturally proven, right? And it's so powerful that it's in the scripture, guys. Guess what? I don't know if you know this, but joy is in the scripture 430 times. So there is obviously a science to this. It's actually a spiritual state of being that is healthy for us. And it's also an art that we create outside of us. But today we're going to focus on joy being used to help us through the process of grief. And guess what? If you're going through grief right now, first of all, let me just be with you for just a moment. I just want to say I'm sorry for your pain. Whatever you are in the process of grieving or the process of detaching from, which is really what the grief process is all about, coming into an understanding that something you loved, someone, something, a chapter in life has transitioned into a different form. And the pain of that is what we're going to be discussing today, but also I want to be of service to you and anyone else who's going to go through that process as I've gone through it many, many times. I want to be an instrument of healing for you so you can get back to joy, because that's your goal right now. Your goal is to go through this process and with the intention of achieving joy. And that is what soul health is all about. And when you are going through a grieving process, it's a self-love opportunity. And far too many of us go through this over and over and over again, not knowing that it's a self-love opportunity, not even knowing how to, maybe just hearing this for the first time. And if you're hearing this for the first time, then you haven't been taught that it's a self-love opportunity. So that's why I want to be of service to you. So getting back to our healing ointment here, which is joy, as I mentioned to you before, I'm going to put my glasses on, y'all. Honey, Nurse Blue wants to see this. All right, so joy is in the Bible 430 times, guys. Yes, yes. And here are some of the scriptures that I want to share with you just to show you the power and strength of joy and why this can be used for your healing, as your healing ointment, as you are moving through this stage. And this is what I use. Now, let me tell you how important it is. In Philippians 4:4, it says, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Now, anytime somebody got to repeat something twice, that means, listen, I said it one time and I want you to make sure you heard me. Rejoice in the Lord always. What is the Lord? Okay, so in the land of spiritual, when we think about ourselves being spiritual beings, because that's where we start with that premise, with that truth, you are a spiritual being. You're not a human being. You are a spiritual being. You're having a human experience. You have a human body. This is the transportation that you need in order to walk planet Earth, but that is not who and what you are. You are a spiritual being. You have a soul. The soul is made up of 3 parts. The 3 parts of that soul are made up of the subconscious mind. That's where all of the beliefs you truly have are stored, right? Your emotional body, right? So the higher you on the emotional scale, meaning if you're rocking with high vibrations, then that means that you are feeling unconditional love, right? That means you are feeling abundant. That means that you are in a frequency of peace and joy and harmony, and things in your life are reflecting that. If things in your life are not reflecting that, then that means lower vibrational frequencies are present, okay? Also, and when I mean by lower vibrational frequencies, I'm talking about fear-based frequencies, okay? So fear-based frequencies can be anger, it can be trauma, it can be jealousy. Fear-based frequencies are lower vibrational frequencies of pride, shame, guilt, and grief is a low vibrational frequency. It's okay, because it's not about us running away from our lower vibrational frequencies where the healing takes place. The healing takes place when we are able to release those lower vibrational frequencies, and everybody has them, okay? All right, now stick around, keep rocking with me. The next part of the soul is the will. The will, now, in that part of our soul, that's where our habits are stored, right? So that's where our addictions, our patterns of life, our lifestyle is created by all 3 of these components of our soul. Again, our subconscious mind, our emotional body, and our will. That is how we create our present reality. Okay, hopefully you're rocking with me. Okay, so in the process of death, okay, because grief doesn't show up unless there is a form of death. Now, that form of death could very well just be a loss of some kind. It could be a loss of a job, right? A loss of an opportunity, a loss of a business, right? Loss or death, right? That can be the death of, in my case, I've experienced the death of my best friend. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense that this beautiful, wonderful man in his early 30s, who was the pinnacle of health and was actually a person who was vegan before most people I knew what it was, suddenly died. Didn't make sense. My best friend since I was age 13. It didn't, I've had to grieve through the process of my grandmother, who I was very close to, my uncles and my cousins, and just recently, I'm coming up on the 2nd anniversary of the person who taught me unconditional love here on planet Earth, my dear father, my dear father. So when I speak to you about grief, I'm not just talking to you from a professional standpoint, although that is absolutely relevant because I've assisted so many people, so many of my clients through the grieving process, but also from a personal standpoint. And what I can tell you about grief, whether you're experiencing the grief of an animal, which I've been there before, a member of your family, a friend, you could be experiencing the loss of your family's legacy, your inheritance, because what happens with death, sometimes it's layered. It's not just losing that person, but it's the relationships that are shaken by the loss of that person. If it was the matriarch of the family or the patriarch of the family or the beloved, darling, the promising young child that suddenly is not with us anymore, it's devastating, right? And that's why, in Proverbs 17:22, it says, a joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. When we think about grief, that's that crushed spirit. That's what grief does. So that's why a joyful heart is what we're trying to accomplish when that's our goal of making it out of that crushed spirit. And that's why in James 1:2, it states, count it all joy. It says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, because death is a part of life. You're going to have trials, and those trials, a lot of times, those trials that we're speaking of is we're navigating the death. We're navigating the trial of divorce. We are navigating the trial of the death of a husband or the death of a wife. Just recently, I was speaking with a neighbor of mine who had been married for over 54 years. And, her husband had some real deep medical trials and, was up in age. And, you can just see the decline of life. And I witnessed that just as a neighbor. And so I just called to check on her. She was on my heart. And she had shared with me that he had transitioned. And she had shared with me the beautiful ceremony that they had prior to him leaving, because they were at a point where they had to accept the reality that his visit on earth was coming to an end. And so she decided to have a gathering of their children, and they had this memorial prior to him leaving. So he was a part of it. He was able to participate and listen to his favorite songs, and they had someone sing to him, and they shared pictures, and they shared beautiful memories and stories, because that's really what's going to stay when it's all over. And she warmed my heart by just sharing with me the celebration of them embracing the inevitable, right? And so at that point, she was counting it all joy right there. That was an example of that in James 1:2. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. So they met their trial with counting it all joy, because joy is so important, because it is the fruit of the Spirit. Remember, you are a spiritual being. So part of you enjoying this life and becoming the best version of yourself is discovering that the fruit is not outside of yourself. The fruit is in the higher level frequencies, the higher vibrations of life. The fruit that I speak of is in Galatians 5:22, when it says, but the fruit of the Spirit. What is the fruit of the Spirit? The fruit of the Spirit is not a Bentley. The fruit of the Spirit is not a PhD. The fruit of the Spirit is, not a vacation somewhere. No. Those are nice things. Don't get me wrong. The fruit of the Spirit is not billions of dollars or trillions of dollars or being seen with 1 million followers. That's not the fruit of the Spirit. That's the fruit of the flesh. And we can't get that confused. The fruit of the Spirit is in Galatians 5:22. It says, but the fruit is love. Why is the fruit love? Because you are made in love. The source of all things is love. The source is, you're made in the source of all love, right? Now, what you're programmed into, particularly here on planet Earth, I don't know what they program, if they program anybody in Jupiter or any other one of the planets, in the galaxy. But here on planet Earth, we're programmed into fear. And so in order for us to return back to our highest level of frequency, which is 852 hertz, that's unconditional love, the source of all things, that's what you're made of, right? And the fruit of the Spirit, that's the fruit of the treasure. The fruit is the treasure that you're made of, is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. That's the nutritional supplements. That's the fruit that your soul needs, right? And so that's why joy is so important, because it's a fruit of the Spirit. Now, why is joy so important to your soul's development? Because it states in Nehemiah 8:10 that the joy of the Lord is your strength. The joy of the Lord is your strength. That's your strength. So joy is medicine. Joy is strength. Joy is fruit. Joy is peace. You need joy as a spiritual being on earth. And that's why a joyful heart is good medicine. All right. So as a soul health and wellness professional that just so happens to be a nurse, I'm here to help you understand how to activate that joy and sustain it no matter what you're going through in life, largely because that's what I've been able to do. That's what I've been able to do. And I have suffered for many years in my training. Suffered meaning being prepared by navigating lower vibrational frequencies that showed up in so many ways, right? But right now, as I want to help you move through your own grief, let's talk a little bit about let's talk about the 4 aspects of grief. Why it is important that you know how to move through these losses. Move through the losses. Sometimes they're coming more and more. Sometimes they're coming frequently. I've heard of people who have lost their mother, and then just months later or weeks later, they're dealing with the loss of their father. So now they have compounded grief. With me, it was compounded grief as well. I had the loss of a relationship that I absolutely adored. Then it was the loss of one of my pets, who was just, it's like losing a child, right? So I was grieving, my daughter was grieving, and the loss of my dad. And then with the loss of my dad, that shook the relationships in my family. So I was grieving the loss of because he was the patriarch, the loss of him and what he represented to our family, and who our family became as a result of him not being there. All of that shifted. And his dream, grieving the loss of what my father saw for our family to accomplish. All of that was lost. All of that was lost, right? So with that being lost, I had to endure what many of you guys are going through. Number one, grief is painful. It's painful. It's the kind of pain that it takes many forms. It stings. And then it can radiate, right? And grief can be so painful that it hits you on your stomach that you feel like you can't breathe. It's hard to breathe. Sometimes it sits you down. You ever had something? When I got the call that my best friend had died, and how he died playing basketball, and I had just talked to him, and when it happens when you're young, it doesn't make sense, because this happened when we were in our early 30s. I just talked to him, so it was shocking. It's nothing like with getting a call, and it's shocking. It's one thing when you get the call, like when I received it when my dad died. It was to be expected, because my dad was in his late 80s. He had been battling Alzheimer's for 10 years. My father had been in hospice twice. He had come out of hospice. So I got to a point where I stopped worrying about him, because anybody who comes out of hospice twice, him and God had a different kind of relationship. It was quite obvious that he was going to die when him and God they were negotiating it. I don't know. But anyway, when I got the call with my father, that made sense, and I kind of was prepared for it. But with my best friend, who was in his early 30s, who was a pillar of great health, that did not make sense. How many of you guys received those calls that your children had been shot or was in a car accident? Painful. Grief can be traumatic. Because why is it traumatic? Because and again, it didn't make sense. Like, the disease came from out of nowhere. I was formerly married to someone who was grieving the loss of his first wife out of nowhere in her early 30s. Was diagnosed with a disease person who was jogging every single day, a person who was young and vibrant. How does a disease from out of nowhere take you out in 6 months? What led to that? How many of you guys have gone through a situation where, it was just traumatic to hear how it happened, here in our country. 9/11, it was traumatic for us. Out of nowhere, we're watching death takes place. George Floyd was traumatic for us. This doesn't make sense. How is this happening? Seeing, presidents in the United States assassinated in front of the public, traumatic. So it can be quite traumatic. Grief, number 3, is soul altering, because who you were before that soul transitioned is different than who you're going to be once you go through your grieving process. Just recently, one of my dear sister friends, someone who has been so a part of my life and my own soul's development, just recently has entered into a stage of her life where she's grieving the transition of her 27-year-old child. And as a friend, as a sister, someone who loves her deeply, how to assist her with moving through her soul's, her soul wounding when your child, where it didn't make sense, where you're talking to them and people are asking you, well, how is he or how is she doing? And then the next thing you have to deal with is saying they're no longer here. And watching that news stun the person that you have to deliver that to, because they're stunned because it doesn't make sense to them and you're still trying to digest it yourself. They're not here anymore. The grief is prolonged because you didn't expect it, you weren't prepared for it, and it does not make sense. And you're trying, and you're mad at it because many of you have had a relationship with the Most High where you've trusted the source of all things, and now you have to accept that part of my trusting is being okay that my child is not here with me anymore, that my child is gone. Many of you are mad because you feel like, God, you took my child. That's what you're going through in that grieving process. And that grieving process is here to remind us. Here's what death reminds us all the time. Death reminds us of 3 things. Number 1, it reminds you that life is a gift. It's a gift. And if it's a gift, that means it's an opportunity. Life is a gift. Life is an opportunity. And this life is not yours. This life, it's not yours. And that's why it's the reminder that it can come today and be gone tomorrow. And you don't know when, because it doesn't belong to you and you don't really control a lot of it. And that which you do control, you have to be able to know how to control it on the soul level. Okay, so let's get down to what we must do. If you're going through this process right now, you need a healing environment to be in so that you can, something that can usher you back up into your space of joy, because that's what's going to heal you. And I want to offer you to come and join me on Clubhouse. Come and join me at Clubhouse at I Need and Deserve Joy party. It takes place on Clubhouse on Tuesdays in the Women in Business House. And I want you also to come and join me on this, or and join me for 2 parties. The self-love party takes place on Wellness Wednesdays. I just had one this morning and it was fantastic. It's the self-love party, because that's how you're going to heal yourself through grief, through self-love. And I want to show you how to do that. I want to introduce you to the art and the science of that. And I want to help you learn how to restore your soul back to health, because grief is something that each and every one of us are going to go through this life over and over and over again. And it is an opportunity that leads to a gateway. It can lead to an opportunity for you to elevate, and you can leverage the pain, leverage the trauma, And the soul altering, you can leverage all of that for your good by returning to joy. And when you really, learn how to not only experience joy, but to sustain it deliberately, that's when that grief can be used as a powerful tool to attract everything you've ever wanted. I've done it enough to know, okay? So please come and be a part of a free experience. It's a high vibrational party experience designed to help you achieve joy through this grieving process. Click the link. I want you to also get your free tool, which is your vibrational frequency scale. You need a map of consciousness scale, because to help you really make the most of what you're feeling right now, you want to make sure we get rid of those lower vibrational frequencies that come with grief, because you can get stuck in anger, you can get stuck in fear, anger, and lower vibrational frequencies of deep trauma around it. We have to learn how to shift that, right? So you need your vibrational frequency scale. Come to Clubhouse to I Need and Deserve Joy party, or the self-love party on Wednesdays. Nurse Blue is here for you. I want to help you do this thing, okay? So hopefully, if you would like that information, I want you to click the link and join me. Get on my newsletter. I'll be sending you soul health newsletters, which is going to just give you some extra tips how you can activate more joy in your life. With more joy, you will be experiencing more life and living more abundantly and processing this stage that you're going to go through in a healthy way. Okay? So with all that being said, guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope to see you soon. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. Also, make sure you follow me. And I'm also on Instagram. I am Nurse Blue. You can find me on Instagram, as well as I hope to see you on the Soul Health and Wellness Club on Clubhouse. Okay, so download the app right now. Bye-bye.